Hey everyone, this is Uncle Reddit. Welcome to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where irate customers mistake other customers for employees. Please subscribe and hit that like button. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. Our first story comes to us from Nami Ria. I played as a manager to help a cashier. So I'm 24, 22 at the time, and I worked as a station agent in a French airport. Those are the people in suits that check you and your luggage in, and even board you or deboard you from the planes. I worked with a French company for 8 months during the summer of 2018. Working there was the best. Great hours, big pay. People are a-holes, but honestly not so bad once you learn how to deal with them proper. One of my favorite parts of this job were the hours. Either from 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. or from 1 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. No weekends nor public holidays. For most people that's probably bad, but for me it was paradise. We would get days off by cycle, and having days off in the middle of the week rocks. Go get groceries with almost nobody in the stores, all governmental agencies open, and less people all around because they're working. Paradise. Now for the first 5 months there, I would always come dressed in a suit. Full suit, even in the middle of summer, with a tie and everything. So I would go home or stop to stores in the suit as well. After a while I got tired and started to change clothes arriving and leaving from work. This story of course happened when I was still coming and leaving from work in a full suit. It was around 3 months after I started. By then, wearing a suit became natural. No more of that weird, uncomfortable feeling while wearing it. It became normal. Even more, I got used to changing my attitude while wearing it. Like my posture, and people, even in the streets, would think that I'm some successful person just because I wear a suit. And I also got quite used to noticing people needing help, problematic customers and all that. I leave work at 3 or 4 p.m., had to stay longer to cover for someone, and head to a store to bring a faulty electronic back that I bought there. I walk to the store wearing only my suit and carrying the thing in a bag. I head toward customer service and immediately notice a man, hand on the counter, leaning toward the cashier. She'll be Julie. And all her colleagues look tense, eyeing the guy. I shrug. Not my problem. I'm not paid to deal with that one. I turn to sit and notice that all the seats are taken, so I stay up and pull out my phone. Meanwhile, this guy starts to speak louder and louder. From what I got, the issue was that he wanted to use the store card from his wife, but the store policy is that you can't use the card of another customer, even if you're their relative, as the card can be used to make credit. The guy gets more and more heated up and starts calling around for other people to join. That immediately ticks me off. When I was in training to become a station agent, we learned of different types of customers. I won't go into detail, but this guy is what we call a red customer. Someone that will rally others to help them get what they want. I see Julie on the verge of tears and I try to think of something to do while the guy starts throwing slurs at her. I finally notice a paper hanging near the counter and take action. I drop my bag, adjust my tie, take my best manager face, and walk to the guy. As soon as he notices me, he smirks and turns to me. "You're the manager?" To which I reply yes. While looking at both him and the cashier as if to judge the situation, Julie turns white. He points at her and says, "This employee is discriminating against me. I want to use a discount on my wife's store card. I have her ID. There's no reason that..." I then take a step forward. I'm not tall, and this guy is taller than me, but he still stops while I get to his face. Without a word, I point at the paper I saw earlier. It's a notice saying that any kind of harassment or insult towards an employee will result in a lawsuit and fine for the customer. It's his time to turn white, or whiter. He opens his mouth, but I'm faster. "She is right. If you want to use that card, you need your wife to be here. Now I have to ask you to leave, or I'll have to call security. But first, you will apologize. You've been beyond insulting to her." A security guard that is always near steps closer. He turns to the woman, apologizes in a weak voice, and quickly walks off. I walk to Julie and ask her if she's okay. She thanks me profusely. Then, another worker comes to me and asks me what to do with a product returned by another client. I giggle, and pulling my airport ID, simply state, "Sorry, I don't work here. I just can't stand people like this." I was allowed to pass first, got a refund, and smiles from everyone on the team. A good day. This next story was posted by YouIslandCat72. I certainly don't work for you. This might not be the perfect fit for this sub, but I was about 16 at the time. It was summer, and one of my favorite things was to go to the local park, sit at the end of one of the benches looking over the fish pond, and read. I was a true bookworm. and once deep into a tale of a mystery or adventure, would completely tune out the real world. On the day of this story, I believe I was somewhere in the vicinity of Narnia or Middle-earth, when a loud "You!" repeated once or twice, broke through my concentration. I looked up to see an angry old man. Okay, I was 16, he could have been anything from 40 to 100 for all I could tell. Standing over me, pointing at the ground off past the far end of the park bench. "Pick that up!" I had no clue or context as to what he was talking about, or why he was angry with me. I should probably have been frightened, but there were a lot of people around and I felt safe at this park. I'm sure I was gaping at him and looking dim-witted. "Put that in the garbage can." I finally understood what he was shouting about, but still didn't know why he was shouting at me. On the ground past the garbage can, which was on the opposite end of the 8-foot bench on which I was sitting, was a crumpled fast food soda cup. It wasn't mine, I hadn't noticed it before, and for all I knew, it could have been laying there for days. Being a good little girl who was brought up to answer to adults, however irrational, I stammered, "That's not mine." "You kids are all so lazy. You need to get over there and throw that in the garbage." He was getting really loud and red in the face, and was advancing on me while making violent pointing gestures towards me and then the garbage can. I'd like to claim that I rebelled and sassed the old guy, putting him in his place, but in reality, I leapt up clutching my book and scurried off and away. I wasn't frightened of him being some sort of pedophile, as a teenager today might be, but just of a random stranger feeling it was acceptable to approach and berate some young person minding their own business. Truly, had he approached me quietly and said something along the lines of, "Could you maybe put that cup in the garbage can? I hate litter, but I can't bend down to pick things up easily anymore," I'd have jumped right up to help. You're right, OP. Yeah, too many people making assumptions and thinking that they're in charge of the world. Our next post comes to us from you, Bailey the Nerd. "I don't work here, dude. Anymore. So I used to work at a corporate store for a major phone carrier here in the US. This particular carrier that I worked for, I'm 100% convinced was conceived by Satan as a means to make both employee and customer suffer. Long story short, I left there because I cannot in good conscience screw people over for money, especially when it involves lying and railroading people into getting a bad product. While I was there, I had a bad habit of forgetting my work phone, so I'd help customers using my actual phone. So basically, for 2 months after I left, I got a lot of phone calls from former customers. Former customer 1. "Hey OP, I'm thinking of finally pulling the trigger on that TV bundle y'all keep bugging me about." Me. "Well, good news and bad news, bud. Bad news, I don't work there anymore. Good news, the TV bundle is garbage. For the love of God, do not get it." End call. Former customer 2. "Hey, your company still hasn't reimbursed me for the months of crappy online TV service that I didn't want." Me. "Oh boy, was hoping you'd call. I've spent months trying to fix that for you. I told you not to get that service in the first place. At some point you have to accept it's your own damn fault, and company doesn't give enough of a crap about you to help and try to fix your screw up." Former customer 2. "Excuse me? I'm going to talk to your manager." Me. Former manager. "I don't work there anymore, bud." Click. Former customer 3. "Hey man, can you help me with this specialized discount program we're working on? It's still really confusing." Me. "Sorry bud, I don't work there anymore." Former customer 3. "Oh, sorry to bother you." Me. "But here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna call former manager, and you're gonna ask her to do X. And if she says she can't or she won't, then tell her you're gonna call regional manager and get him to help. His phone number is 555-555-5555. Not really sure if this falls under I Don't Work Here Lady, but I got about 1 million of my old customers calling me and had some fun stories out of it. Mostly throwing my old manager under the bus for not doing big chunks of her job. She would never help people because despite the fact she has a budget for bill credits and super manager powers to fix things, she thought it made her look bad to her bosses if she ever used those handouts as she called them. Our next post comes to us from Starbug360. "None of us work here, lady. Longtime lurker, first time poster. A certain YouTube channel, who I won't mention, his ego is big enough as it is, convinced me that maybe I should join, and I guess this is a good story to start with. So back in 2009, the company I had been working for went out of business, yet another victim of the credit crunch. And after about 6 months of unemployment, I was starting to get a little depressed, so my mom suggested that I should do some voluntary work, just to give me something to do. After checking with the job center that I wouldn't affect my unemployment benefits, I went to the local branch of a national charity to see if they needed anyone. They did, and I soon became part of the small team that ran that particular location. Everyone there was a volunteer, mostly older retired people. So being in my mid-20s at the time, I was given most of the physical work, which suited me fine, as I'm not too good at paperwork. Now I should explain that the charity rents out equipment for elderly and disabled people, charging just enough to keep us running and providing a little extra money for any unexpected costs that might pop up. The only paid employee we had was a manager who worked out of a different branch in another town, maybe an hour away. Our branch was located in a small building adjacent to a pay and display car park in the center of town with about 7 dedicated, clearly marked parking bays. Given our location, it wasn't unusual for people to come in, asking questions about the car park, and we all quickly became used to it. Sometimes we'd get people angry about getting a ticket, but they usually calmed down when we explained that it wasn't anything to do with us. Now that I've set the scene onto our story, it's been 10 years, so I'm going by memory. Cast equals me, Team Leader, TL, Volunteer 1, V1, Entitled Lady, EL. It was a pretty normal day. Must have been a Tuesday, given who was on, and I was down on one end of the single large room that made up the bulk of the building, doing some housekeeping when an older woman, I'd say mid to late 60s, walked in. I only looked around to see if I was needed to get anything, but kept out of it. Little did I know that I was about to experience what I now know to be a Karen in the wild. Volunteer 1. Hello, how can we help you? Entitled Lady. Yes, I've parked in one of the disabled bays next to the building here. Volunteer 1. Oh, and have you used us before? Entitled Lady. No, I'm just taking my husband to the dentist. This was across the road that ran down one side of the car park. Volunteer 1. Oh, I'm sorry, but those bays are reserved for people using our scheme. Entitled Lady, cutting her off. My husband has a blue badge. For those who don't know, a blue badge is a government-issued disabled parking permit that's recognized almost everywhere in the UK. Volunteer 1. I see, but those bays aren't part of the actual car park. Entitled Lady. It's a blue badge. We can park anywhere. Note, no you can't. There are still restrictions on their usage, but not everyone reads the booklet that comes with it. At this point, our team leader stepped out of her office by the door. Team Leader. I'm sorry, but those are private bays. We rent them separately from the landowner. Entitled Lady. But my husband has a blue badge. Team Leader. Yes, but they're private parking bays. Entitled Lady. You obviously don't understand how these things work. Team Leader, leaning forward on the crutches she needed to get around. Really? Now, I'm still friends with Team Leader, and while she's a friendly, outgoing person, I've seen her when she blows her lid, and decided that it would be a good idea if I stepped in at this point. Me. Private parking spaces aren't necessarily covered by the blue badge scheme. Entitled Lady simply glares at me, as if I was beneath her notice, so I go back to what I was doing. I didn't pay much attention to the rest of the conversation, but eventually Entitled Lady stormed out in a huff, and moved her car. Not long after, one of the volunteers, I forget who, was outside and saw her having parked on the road directly outside the dentist, talking to a traffic warden. Note, the car park was private property, and was overseen by a private company, so a council employee traffic warden had no say over anything that happened there, no matter how excitedly Entitled Lady gestured towards our office. We assumed that that was the end of it, but would I really be posting this here if that was the case? No. No, I wouldn't. Entitled Lady came back in demanding to speak to our manager. Team Leader is behind the desk at this point, and informs her that she is indeed the team leader, even holding up her laminated name badge that clearly states as much. Entitled Lady scoffs at this and repeats that she wants to speak to the manager now. Team Leader explains that the manager is based out of the main office in the other town, but dutifully produces a letterhead with the phone number and address, even writes it on the manager's full name. Entitled Lady, grabbing the piece of paper. I'll have you all fired for this. Team Leader, Volunteer 1, and me, laughing to various degrees. We're all volunteers here. None of us are actually employed by the charity. Entitled Lady gives a harumph that would put an endangered elephant to shame, spins on her heels, and storms off again. Well, we laugh about it, but put it out of mind, as we have better things to think about. Then about 2 weeks later, one of the trustees for the charity pops in, and we learned what happened next. Entitled Lady called the main office and spent an hour on the phone with the manager, not realizing that Team Leader had already emailed her an account of what happened. The manager tries to explain to Entitled Lady that no, we'd actually been in the right, and yes, she would have gotten a ticket if she'd parked in one of our bays. Entitled Lady was having none of it, and informed the manager that she'd be taking it to her superiors. A few days later, a letter had arrived, addressed to the managing director of the charity. the name of the return address evidently being the same that entitled lady had given. Well, charities don't have managing directors, and as no one in the office felt like getting involved with that particular brand of crazy, the story having gotten around to everyone, the unopened letter was stuck to the notice board with a thumbtack. To the best of my knowledge, it remains there to this day. I have since found a job, but I still pop into the charity with tea, coffee, and biscuits from time to time. But I always look in the window first to check for Karens. Alright everyone, I hope you're having a great day and that you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and keep a lookout for more of these little gems from Reddit. So long!